Hi everyone, welcome to the world as it exists today. Well, as every one of you may have noticed or noticed, um, there's recent events all over the world escalating into a worldwide revolution, as it seems. Yet I would urge you all to think again. Every revolution that has existed in the past has been directed in some form or way by the opposition, which is the powers that be, of course. That means, in some sense, that they are creating a controlled opposition. Violence will never solve anything. It will create more opportunity to bring a chaos out of order, as they would like to call it. Um, what baffles me is that people don't like to investigate more, and all this confusion that exists in the web and in the mainstream media, it's designed for one purpose: to obfuscate, to drive people away from what they actually have to do, and that is educate themselves and learn how to derive facts from events. Now, you may notice that all these videos of revolutions and revolutionary ideas speak of one thing: fight the New World Order. Of course, these words are merely words. The point being that we have to understand the definitions of things and what they represent in the world first. A New World Order means, by definition, nothing more than just a new way of how things are going to be played on. In saying that, I would like to bring to your attention also that very few people understand what to do from that point on. Resist, yes, resist. But when your daily life is dependent on you working for your money to actually acquire nutrition or electricity or any other kind of convenience that is currently administered by the system. And I would like to bring a new definition. The system. Yes. Well, the system virtually belongs to the people that run it. And when I say run it, I mean that in actuality make it function. Those people, of course, in the lowest ranks of jobs in the system take their orders from the higher posts of work. And the point being that this ranks in the pyramid of any given system in the world are actually differentiated by their wealth, which means that if you're well-to-do, you don't like to disturb that situation because that might actually bring you a level down or even at the bottom of the pyramid where everybody else finds themselves to be right now. As that is a very, very important fact to notice. Many people remain inactive to the social injustices of our system because they have an intrinsic interest in things remaining the way they are right now. Feeling that you are lucky to be born in a position when you don't have to fight for your bread. I would hate to imagine something dropping from that level. So, all in all, this classification of wealth makes for this rigid structure to maintain its structure. The The point is that the bottom of the pyramid is growing exponentially, and the higher posts of this are having difficulties managing the lower posts. The higher posts would like to reach a slave status for the whole of the bottom pyramid, which looks like a cube by now, with a little tip of a pyramid on top. Something more like an obelisk. Yes. Infinite structures upon structure, maintained by a class that keeps order. Your police forces and mine as well. The police forces are a different kind of people altogether. They do not abide to the same rules. They have a permanent job that it is very, very difficult to lose, which means the state can never fire any police officers because it always has shortage of security in the system. In saying that, taxpayer money is paying for all these peoples and their sustenance, of course. Their beautiful children going to schools, their daughters acquiring higher education to become lawyers, to furthermore perpetuate this disgusting structure. Well, in the words of some smart persons, it said that you make thieves of people, you deprive them of logic, and then you punish them for it in a shorter version. As that may be, it actually is very telling of the situation that we have been slowly put into. Now, constraining this pyramid proportions is very, very important to these people, which means every production area of food has been localized and has been corporatized. Very few people are actually in control of your food resources, your water, and mine. And very few people actually hold, in general, all these resources in their hands. However, they are given these resources or the access to them by the state with grants of whatever kind, and they all belong to rich and powerful families. I hate to break it, but every time we think of a revolution, it seems as if it's just another turn to make these bonds even stronger and more cunning between people. Think of the communist times and the communist state. They thought they had a revolution, but even in the early periods of this government that was formed after the revolution, people understood that they had been fooled. Yet, a very strong taboo was created to challenge a newly created structure that arose out of a genuine revolution. I have outlined some of the problems that we may be facing in this revolution, but most of all, I am warning as to the after effects of it, because the structures get a lot more sophisticated, and with the technologies in place in time, everybody is put into a private little jail of his own, and her own, of course. Going to the gender part, women, by acquiring their newly found freedoms, or rights as they call them, have been placed into another pyramid, a pyramid a lot more rigid than that of men. That pyramid supports, it's almost a reflection to the pyramid of man, which means that women of powerful men support those ideas of their men, and women of poor men, of course, urge those men to actually do better. Now, I am not at all prejudiced as to the gender differences. I understand that a woman needs security a lot more than a man needs security, especially when she has the fear of other men. So, there's a multitude of bonds in the social structures today, and whatever one may actually admit to support as an ideology, it makes no difference. When it comes down to it, biology does a very great part of what is called necessity. You need to eat, drink, and you need to have fun and security. And those two things are mutually non-exclusive. So, what could be one actual solution to a revolution that will not end into stronger bondages for the people that instigate or think they instigate the revolution? I have thought that over and over, watching those beautiful videos on YouTube about how we should move in masses, and then go back and buy groceries so we can do it again tomorrow. It is very difficult indeed for people that live in cities to actually hold the revolution for more than, I don't know, a month. And the powers that be, which is the government and everybody else, have unrestricted resources, and they can hold on for a lot longer. A violent revolution will merely bring another power structure, as I have mentioned time and time again, and that is inevitable. The idea is that people need people. In this greater society, everything is centralized, so say if you would like to have water, you make your own well. And if you would like to have food, you would have to have your own garden. And not that genetically modified one-time seeds, which is spreading through the markets like gangrene. So we get up on our 720 pixels by 340 and howl about world revolution and democracy. There is no democracy, there is no revolution. It's merely a stirrup, a stupid stirrup of people that don't know how to deduce their own facts and govern their own selves. So, the main thing is to think of how can you clear your mind of all the clutter that is being presented to you every day through the media or even the internet. We have an economical system that relies on us to be busy every day. And most of the wealth of nations has been based on stealing resources from another nation, bringing it into their own nation, taking advantage of that sudden and rapid expansion, and then looking for more prey. A nation is a predatory organism. It can make alliances, but only under the premises that it has to be a victim. See, if there was only two powers in the world, that would have been constant struggle. Two true powers, if they were not owned by the same person, just to have something going on. And as well as a justification for the situation of the bottom of the pyramid. What I would like to propose is very simple. It's very simple for the upper parts of the pyramid. It's very simple for the bottom parts of the pyramid. And it's merely social sabotage. At every level, a social sabotage. Disobedience, I say no. You will be replaced faster than you can say, I don't know. You choose. But those will be your last words. Point being is that if you refuse to act while having established some kind of connection, or how should I put it, contract of conduct, then you're immediately excluded and ostracized, of course. Society works upon the premises of balance, and that does not go to say that balance is equal. It means a balance that has been agreed upon. We have left too much of our own responsibilities in the hands of a few directors. Now, they feel that they are doing all the work, and we are sitting down in the bottom of the pyramid enjoying the perks of the system. They say that without us, the system would not be, and they, who is they? It is the directing class. The class that gives orders for things to be done, the organizing class. And it's no wonder that we have been left without organizing skills. We have been made and molded into pleasure-seeking little creatures. I see it in me as well as in so many people. And that is not to say that pleasure is a bad thing. They use pleasure as a weapon, of course. It is imperative that people understand that their own pleasures, or better, their own short-time pleasures, are actually impinging on their freedoms and then long-term prosperities. Which means to say that you have to give up some temporary pleasure to actually achieve some greatness and freedom. Now, in the business world, that is called just building up a career. And very few people have the guts for it, because it takes a lot of ruthlessness and it takes a lot of work. Because you need people underneath you to constantly be underpaid, as you direct them in more efficient ways to work for you. I would stress the people watching this video to actually refrain from thinking that the revolution will happen on its own, with a brief and fast and furious fashion. It never happens that way. It has never happened that way. The Rockefellers have admitted that they were the instigators of the woman movement. Well, what does that say about the woman movement? Nothing much, except that it was used. It was used to bring another bottom of the pyramid and mix it up with the rest that had some responsibility. Now women are bringing charges into their directors about sexual harassment. That is very cute. But that is a side effect. That is a distraction. There is constant oppression, unseen and accepted. Those spurs of violent acts are nothing more than suppression of sexuality and frustration. Those are merely the effects of what the system produces in itself. And I don't like to bring many quotes from people that have been heard during the ages to say smart things, because they just lay it out there. That's it. What can one man do? And I stress, one man can do. One man can instigate his own personal sabotages in the system, frustrate its structures so much that all these individual frustrations will bring resonance and make the steel structure around it break like glass. A person has to be creative with his own means. We have lost that. We have lost that for a sense of direction and planning. Of course, keeping a constant creativity in your life seems like an absurd thing to do. Yet I urge that that is what has to happen with every person. People have to wake up their own creativity about their own situations. Of course, bunching together people with same purpose makes a terrorist group, of course. Today it's almost certain that you will end up into some list of a troublemaker. Yes. Well, I would like to rabble here for a lot longer, but thing is that frustration brings a controlled reaction. The people that guide our governments, they know the reaction. And they know also the solution to those reactions. Create some resistance with your police forces. You try to pump up the media and create fear and disarray. Try to make yourself look like you are the one to keep some order, but things haven't been going well lately. And disregard the main factor that is obvious to everybody, yet nobody wants to touch it. Some people have, but they're marginalized, being called radicals, being called crazy, because what I'm talking about is the economic system, of course, and money. Money. Never had a good relationship with money. It seemed to me like too much of a fuss to have to go and create money in order to create something else. And that meant that I had to slave for somebody that had a constant flow of money from other people, and then take that money and do whatever I so want to do with it. The point is that there's a lot of detrimental ideas out there about what constitutes a good life, or a comfortable life, or even a happy life. And it's being solidified in the minds of people that if they're not having that kind of life, they're not being happy. Disregarding everything that they feel inside, they conform to the general status of how one should feel. If one is rich and one is wealthy, then one should be happy because he can do or she can do whatever one wants to do. Which means freedom to act in this world by monetary means is actually using the blood and sweat of so many people that have been underpaid and have been scammed to do something that you'd like. It's almost like a serum that extracts all the vital elements from one's blood, and then that person is sold a vial of this substance that came out of him in return. It's brilliant. They pulled it off so well. And they pulled it off by, first of all, and mostly, miseducating everybody. Educating them so badly and so inadequately that they would have to rely on somebody a little bit more practically educated to take orders of what to do. So they've taken your self-guidance, they've taken your sovereignty. I suggest that you take your sovereignty by the only means possible. Reading. First of all, grammar. Second of all, rules of logic. And third, how to perpetuate the logic and the grammar into rhetorics. Which means you have to know what the trivium is. The trivium is a powerful tool of learning. I want your attention to be directed towards that. So, nobody should claim that his words are words of wisdom. And I say that because I don't want to say many times, I, which I just did. But the first thing that I see as the main problem in the population today is a resistance to learn from the beginning. Is a misconception that education is a talent that somebody has for learning. Nobody wants to unlearn anything because they feel that they would be helpless. In that period, very fragile and vulnerable. We feel as if all our weapons are taken away when we're learning because we have to submit to a higher authority for facts and whatnot. The first thing to do is to pull your children out of compulsory education that the state provides you with so that you can go to your loser jobs. Make a plan about how are you going to survive a 6-month absence of the system. Take all these things, think it over, and decide. It is not easy, I know. especially for people that have liabilities. And kids, of course, are a major obstacle in deciding to do such radical movements into a social environment that condemns such actions as radical and crazy, even worse, perverted. You think that the system is building some kind of a person able to function in society, and in some way it is doing that. But it is the society and the culture that right now is your enemy. Think of yourself as an individual cell in an organism, something like a dog. A dog eats a piece of meat with poison in it. The poison passes through his and then ends up into his stomach, right? Now, upon breaking down that nutrition, the poison starts killing the first cells, which is the stomach. Or it may have some parallel effects to your nervous system. Now, the system feels the shock, but the individual cells just feel the pain. And the mind, which is after all just a witnessing apparatus for beings such as ourselves, is slowly but surely realizing that it's losing its control. And from there on, it's a matter of cause and effect. Now, the cells in the system have a certain communication device built within them. And if you look into the biology of consciousness, you will see that the brain of the cell, it's its membrane. It's the first barrier. It's totally exposed to the system. So the first thing that you should be aware is, what are you taking in regarding information? What is the system telling you every day that reassures you that everything is alright? And as you take in the poisonous nutrition via the same cell. I'm afraid this analogy was a bit too complex. But what I mean to say is that those cells are governed by a single and similar system of hierarchy, and they all obey to certain rules because that's how the system functions. Now, you could argue that we're a little bit more independent to the system than our cells are to our bodies, as we can have direct access to our environment. But the environment is also being poisoned. As we talked, Monsanto has a great deal of responsibility in that. And other companies that look at profit, but nothing else. So they poison the environment, they poison the air, they kill the ecosystems. What can be done about that? Are you socially conscious to stop somebody from polluting your environment? I think not. Are you socially responsible to stop some kind of monetary injustice while it's happening in front of you? I think not. That poison is running straight through you. You find yourself unable to resist it, although you know what's going on when the system shock has run through you first. I would suggest to all the listeners or viewers of this video to sit down and think for themselves. And that is a big thing. Not ask for any kind of recognition from your environment, because your environment is conforming to the same crap that you previously were. It is a very, very difficult road of resistance to shit, but eventually it pays off. Slowly gather your funds and seek for a sustainable life. That's the only way you're gonna have courage to bring any real resistance to the system. No other way. We don't have to walk back into the dark ages to go into a just system and a clean system. Everything is in place. It's just being run with the wrong reasons and the wrong parameters. It's being run for profit. It's not being run for quality of life. It's being run for seeming quality of life, which you have been persuaded that it is so. That is what I had to say. Merely a monologue, of course, but talking like this to one person would not equate to anything, actually. One-way monologue is the best way to distribute information. Make another video of what you think, of how do you see the situation, what are the obstacles, what may be some of the solutions, although you may have realized that one of the major solutions is courage. Courage within you to do what's right, nothing else. Courage within you to do what you know is right, not what you're being pushed to think is right. So these things have to come from within you. They have to have a sense of even spirituality. Although I didn't want to taint the video with subjective things that people take it to be whatever they want it to be. A spirituality of superiority could exist out there, and that people need to be guided as they are inferior. That is spirituality for those people. They feel like the stewards of the land and the flock found within the land. I would say that in realizing that you are fearful, you have done the first step towards deciding if you're going to continue being fearful to the system or other people around you, or you're going to stand alone for as long as you have to and guide your courage through one of the solutions that you see fit for your environment and your particular case. There's plenty of solutions being offered out there as the panacea. I don't believe in any one of them, as for the current monetary paradigm, any one of them could be taken under control fairly easily by someone that steps in with the monetary power to direct the initiatives. It is impossible to be bribed one-to-one. if you have the courage to accept what you know is true. Peace, love, and courage to all of you.